It started with a question. Simple, right? Asking where my HOA fees were going. And in response, they sent security to shut me up. At 3:02 a.m., I woke up to the sound of black SUVs idling outside, the diesel choking the cold night air. Fake cops in vests, circling slowly, flashlights raking my windows, photographing my sleeping kids. They were tailing my wife to work, headlights locked onto her like she was a target. All this because I dared to ask about the HOA fees doubling overnight. Now, you know the drill. The usual intimidation tactics. Make the family suffer, make you second-guess your stance. It works on most homeowners, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. See, I'm Rex Callahan, and I don't back down. I've got 28 brothers, combat veterans, Harley riders, the kind of men who don't blink when bullies start picking on wives and kids. One phone call, and those security guys learned real quick what real strength looks like. You won't believe how fast they scattered. What would you do if this happened to your family? You've probably got a neighborhood like mine, with HOA tyrants hiding behind fake smiles and fine print. Let me back up a bit. I moved to Pinewood Estates because I wanted peace. A quiet, suburban life. I'd done my time, spent years in the service keeping Apache helicopters flying in places where people shot at you for doing your job. The plan was simple. A modest ranch house, cold beer at the end of the day, helping my neighbors with their broken lawnmowers in my garage workshop. My wife, Diane, is a trauma nurse. Seen enough real emergencies to appreciate the quiet problems of suburban life. Our daughter, Zoe, she's 17, a straight A student, helps the elderly without being asked. We're not troublemakers. We fix things for free. I'm a guy in the garage with the smell of motor oil and fresh coffee in the air. The kind of guy who enjoys keeping my hands busy. For a couple of years, everything was perfect. Then came Vivian Sterling. Let me paint a picture for you. Think of every power-hungry middle manager you've ever loathed, wrapped in designer clothes, driving a white BMW. Vivian was a real estate agent with perfectly manicured talons, never touched anything dirtier than commission checks. Her smile? Cold as ice. She moved into the executive section of Pinewood Estates, big houses for big egos. Took control as HOA president almost immediately. And that's when things started to change. Her community elevation initiative meant finding reasons to fine everyone. She sent her husband's landscaping business, Sterling Landscapes, into overdrive, charging our HOA for services that never seemed to get done. They sprayed mulch around, planted flowers, which died within weeks, replaced again and again at premium rates. They started patrolling with security trucks, another family business, all billing us for community safety assessments. Other neighbors started getting violation notices. Mrs. Patterson, a sweet old lady, got cited for her rose bushes being non-uniform. Mike, the young dad, got fined because his kids left their bikes out overnight. Suddenly, no one was safe. You had to walk on eggshells to avoid catching Vivian's eye. Then, one month, our HOA fees went up. No explanation, no vote, just a letter, expensive legal paper, announcing a fee increase from $180 to $340. Most neighbors grumbled and paid, but I wasn't having it. I showed up at the next HOA meeting. It smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and desperation in there. I stood up and asked the simplest question. Where's the financial breakdown justifying this fee increase? The room went dead silent. Vivian's smile flickered, but snapped right back into place. She responded like she was speaking to a child. Mr. Callahan, proprietary vendor information can't be disclosed due to competitive bidding confidentiality. Bureaucratic nonsense. These were HOA funds, not military secrets. Homeowners have the legal right to see where their money's going. And I wasn't going to back down. 3 days later, I received a violation notice for conducting commercial automotive activities in a residential area. A fine, $200 per day until I ceased. The kicker? I've been fixing neighbors' mowers, motorcycles, and tools in my garage for years, without a single complaint. But Vivian's husband, he ran an actual commercial landscaping business from his garage, with employees and equipment. Nothing happened to him. I showed Diane the letter. Her trauma nurse instincts kicked in immediately. This isn't about your garage, Rex. This is about silencing anyone who asks questions. Zoe looked up from her homework, worry creasing her face. Dad, are we in trouble? I looked at her, trying to sound calm. No, sweetheart. Just dealing with people who think rules don't apply to them. But watching Diane's jaw clench, I realized we weren't just up against bad management. Vivian had declared war on everything that makes a community work. Fairness, accountability, neighbors helping neighbors. That night in my garage, surrounded by tools, I made a decision. This wasn't about the fees anymore. Vivian had picked a fight with the wrong veteran. Less than 48 hours after I asked for the financial records, Sterling Security showed up in force. Black SUVs with tinted windows, diesel exhaust lingering in the air. They'd started community monitoring to intimidate anyone who dared to question Vivian's decisions. But here's the thing about military training. It teaches you to gather intel before engaging the enemy. I went down to the county clerk's office, dug through old files, and what I found made my blood boil. The Sterling family had raked in over $1 million in HOA contracts for landscaping and community security services. All inflated, and most of it didn't even happen. I cross-referenced invoices and spotted the same pattern I'd learned to spot during my military service. Phantom billing. Charges for services that were never rendered. And one of the biggest violations? The Christmas Day emergency irrigation repair. No one worked that day, yet they still billed the HOA. Vivian had been stealing from us. She was funneling money into her family's businesses, inflating bills, charging us for non-existent services. But the most damning evidence was hidden in the contracts. She had a conflict of interest. She owned part of every business doing work for the HOA, and she never disclosed it. I filed formal complaints with the state. I requested audits. But Vivian responded quickly, like a cornered animal. She escalated the harassment. Violation notices started flooding neighbors' mailboxes. Everyone who supported me, everyone who stood up to her, got hit with fines. But here's where the story takes a turn. That's when the neighbors came to me, quietly, one by one, sharing their stories of financial strain, of living in fear, of being forced out of their homes. Mrs. Patterson, an elderly woman on a fixed income, was threatened with $200 a day fines for her roses. Mike, the young dad, faced foreclosure for minor violations. I realized we weren't just fighting Vivian. We were fighting an entire system of manipulation, one designed to crush anyone who dared to stand up. I organized a meeting in my garage. Everyone needed to know the truth. We weren't just fighting financial greed. We were fighting psychological warfare, pure intimidation. But Vivian wasn't going to roll over easily. She tried everything. When the board meeting was scheduled, she pulled out every trick in the book. She tried to manipulate the agenda, stop people from attending. But we weren't backing down. We showed up. The community center looked like a scene from a movie. Over 250 residents, the place buzzing with energy and anticipation. The room fell silent when I clicked the projector on. I showed them everything. The financial records, the inflated invoices, the charges for services that never happened. The truth was undeniable. Vivian's face went pale when I dropped the bombshell. Every family in this room would face special assessments of $20,000 if we didn't fix the roofs within the next 18 months. Money that should have been in the reserve fund had been stolen. And then, the moment I'll never forget, Mrs. Patterson stood up. This 78-year-old woman, shaking with fury, looked Vivian in the eye and said, "You've been stealing from families who trusted you." Vivian tried to fight back, but the truth had already been laid bare. She tried to bribe me, but I was ready for her. Every word was caught on camera. Every lie, every threat. She didn't know it, but her time was up. We had her, and so we fought. We took down the corrupt system she built. We reclaimed our community, our homes, and our dignity. Vivian Sterling? She's facing federal charges now. Embezzlement, fraud. Her empire crumbled. In the end, the real victory wasn't just about the money we got back. It was about what we did together as a community. People started helping each other again. Neighbors became friends again. We rebuilt not just our homes, but our trust in each other. But here's the thing. You're probably sitting there thinking, that could never happen in my neighborhood. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw a detailed financial breakdown from your HOA? Do you know where your fees are really going? If you got a story, a similar situation where questions led to something worse, drop it in the comments. You're not alone. And if this reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, share it with them. We need to stand together.